Welcome back to Midnight Voice. If you're alone right now, you're exactly where you should be. Tell me the time and where you're watching from. You'll understand why, before this story ends. I'm going to tell you the night I stopped believing the Appalachians were just woods, and started treating them like a living border between what we understand, and what we never should. My name's Evan, and I'm a search and rescue officer stationed in a small county where the radios crackle more than they speak clearly, where fog rolls in like it's being poured from a bucket, and where locals don't say, "missing," the way other people do, they say it like a warning. He's gone into the ridges. You learn quickly that in Appalachia, you don't just search for people. Sometimes you search for what came back wearing their face. I wasn't supposed to be on call that evening. I'd just gotten home, boots off, microwave dinner steaming, when dispatch hit my phone with that tone that makes your stomach drop before you even read the message: hiker lost. GPS ping in the old switchbacks. Nightfall in 20. I sighed, cursed softly, and started pulling my gear back on. That's the job. You go when the call comes. But my partner, a veteran named Wade, texted right after, "Before you head out, follow the rules. New guys forget. New guys don't come back right." I thought he was messing with me. Wade liked to haze. But when I arrived at the station, everyone was moving differently, quieter, like the building itself had a headache. Wade tossed me a spare headlamp and pointed toward the whiteboard where someone had written, in thick marker, not the usual checklist of supplies or weather updates, but a set of numbered rules like they belonged in a campfire story. Rule 1, do not call out the missing person's name after dark. Rule 2, if you hear your radio repeat your last transmission in your own voice, power it off for 5 minutes. Rule 3, if you see a light that isn't ours, don't approach. Mark it. Go around. Rule 4, if you find a path you don't recognize, even if your map says it's correct, do not step on it. Rule 5, if the missing person answers you from downhill, but the last ping was uphill, do not follow the voice. Rule 6, if you smell pennies or wet copper, leave the area immediately. Rule 7, if you see 3 deer standing in a straight line looking at you, back away without turning around. Rule 8, if someone on your team says, "it knows you," end the search and retreat to the vehicles. I stared at the board and let out a nervous laugh. What is this, a prank? Nobody laughed with me. Wade leaned in close enough that I could smell his coffee. "That's not a prank," he said. "That's policy that isn't written in the policy manual. You do your training, you do your paperwork, and you do the rules. The mountains don't care if you believe." I wanted to argue. I wanted to do what rookies do, act tough, act rational, act like nothing scares you. But I'd been in these woods long enough to know something felt off. Like a storm that hadn't started yet. The missing hiker's name was Tyler Baines, 22, college kid, day pack, went off trail for a shortcut, according to the last text he sent his girlfriend. The GPS ping came from an area locals called the Old Switchbacks, where an abandoned service road serpentined up the ridge and disappeared into dense hemlock. It was the kind of place the sun didn't reach even at noon. We briefed fast, 2 teams of 3, grid sweep from the last known point, call and response only before dark, then switched to silent search with whistles and signal lights. Wade assigned me to his team. "You stay close," he said. "And you don't get curious." We drove out in a convoy, headlights slicing through mist that thickened as the road climbed. The radio was all business at first: coordinates, spacing, weather. Then, somewhere past the last house, past the final porch light that made civilization feel real, my radio clicked and hissed like something breathed into it. I checked the channel. Dispatch was clear. The hiss wasn't interference. It was textured, like a whisper trying to become words. I told myself it was nothing. We parked at a pull-off where the service road began, and the forest swallowed our headlight beams like a mouth swallowing soup. Wade looked at the tree line and did something I'd never seen him do. He made a small sign across his chest, quick, like he didn't want anyone to notice. Then he handed out glow sticks and said, "Rule review." He made each of us repeat the rules out loud like a pre-flight checklist. I did it, half embarrassed, half uneasy. When we stepped into the woods, the temperature dropped like someone opened a freezer. Our boots sank into damp leaves that didn't crunch, just sighed. The first mile was normal SAR work, looking for disturbed brush, listening for faint calls, scanning for reflective material. We found a snack wrapper caught in a rhododendron, then a footprint in mud near a small creek. Tyler had been here. That should have felt like progress. Instead it felt like stepping onto a stage where the lights were too bright and you knew something was watching from the seats. We signaled Team 2, marked the fines, and continued up the service road. At a bend in the switchbacks, the fog grew thicker and our headlamps became short cones of light. That's when I almost broke Rule 1 without realizing it. We heard a sound, soft and distant, like someone clearing their throat. Human. Instinct took over. "Ty," I started, and Wade grabbed my vest hard enough to stop my breath. "Don't," he whispered, eyes wide. "Not after dark." I checked my watch. It had crossed that line without me noticing. The forest didn't change visually, but it changed in feeling. Like the moment a party ends and you're the last one standing in a room full of empties. Wade pulled out a whistle and gave the agreed signal, 2 short blasts. We waited. Nothing. No return whistle. Then, from deeper in the trees, we heard it, the same 2 short blasts, perfectly timed. And then, a third blast, long and slow, that wasn't part of our code. Wade's face went pale. "That's why we don't call names," he muttered. "Because it answers." We froze, listening. The long whistle echoed oddly, as if it came from multiple directions at once. The rookie on our team, Mateo, shifted his weight nervously. "Maybe it's Team 2, he said. Wade shook his head. "Team 2 uses a different pattern. And nobody adds a third." We pushed forward anyway, but with spacing tighter, every step deliberate. After another bend, our radios all clicked at once, and my own voice came through, my last transmission, repeated exactly, marking wrapper, possible track near creek, continuing uphill. It was my voice, same cadence, even the little throat clear I did. My blood turned cold. Wade didn't hesitate. "Rule 2, he said. We powered our radios off, counted slow minutes by our breath, and in that silence I realized how loud the woods were without electronics, distant water, wind that didn't feel like wind, and something else, like slow footsteps that stopped when we stopped. When the 5 minutes passed, we powered the radios back on. For a moment, everything was normal again, like the mountain had blinked. Then, through the fog, we saw a light. Not a headlamp beam swinging like ours. Not a flashlight. It was a steady, pale glow low to the ground, hovering between the trees. Mateo took a step toward it automatically. "There," he said. "That's him." Wade's hand shot out again. "Rule 3, he snapped. Mark it. Go around." I pulled a small flag marker and stuck it into the soil, trying not to look directly at the glow for too long. It felt wrong to stare at it, the way it feels wrong to stare at a stranger's open front door at night. As we skirted wide around the light, the glow moved, not fast, but smoothly, keeping pace with us through the trees. Not following from behind. Parallel. Like it was walking beside us just out of sight. I wanted to speak, to ask Wade what he'd seen before, but Rule 1 hung in my mind like a hook. So I stayed quiet and listened to our breathing. We rounded the bend, and the service road should have continued uphill. Our map showed it, Wade's GPS showed it, our compass pointed true. But the road ahead looked different. The gravel was darker, the edges too clean, and the trees on either side leaned inward slightly like ribs. "That's not our road," Wade said, voice tight. "Rule 4. Mateo frowned. But the map, I don't care, Wade cut him off. That's not ours. We stepped off into the brush, forcing our way through thickets that scratched our sleeves, and after 20 yards we reconnected with the real service road, old gravel, scattered branches, tire ruts from decades ago. I glanced back. The other road was gone. There was only forest. My stomach flipped like I'd missed a step on stairs. We continued, and the air began to smell strange, like rain on metal, like the inside of an old toolbox. I tried to ignore it until Wade stopped dead, nostrils flaring. "Copper," he whispered. "Everybody back. Rule 6. We retreated fast, not running, but moving like you move away from a barking dog that might chase if you show fear. The copper smell faded after 50 yards. We regrouped near the creek, and for the first time Wade looked uncertain. "He's close," he said. "Or it's close." Before I could ask what he meant, we heard a voice calling from downhill. Clear as day, a young man's voice, "Help. Over here. Please." Mateo started forward. "That's him," he hissed. Wade gripped his shoulder. "Rule 5, he said. Last ping was uphill." The voice came again, more desperate. "I'm hurt. I can't move. Please." It sounded so real my chest tightened with guilt. Every instinct screamed to go. But Wade shook his head slowly, eyes locked on the slope. "It wants you to break the rule," he murmured. "It wants you to come down." I looked down into the fog. The trees swallowed depth and distance. The voice came a third time, and this time it added something that made my skin crawl. It said my name. Not Tyler's. Mine. "Evan, please." I hadn't said my name out loud. Not once. The hairs on my arms rose. Wade's eyes snapped to me. "Don't answer," he said. Not even a whisper. We backed away, and the voice followed us. Calling softer and softer like it was receding, not because we were moving away, but because it was choosing to stop. Then we saw 3 deer standing in a straight line across the road, perfectly spaced, all facing us. They didn't flinch. They didn't blink. Their eyes reflected our headlamps like little coins. Rule 7. Wade raised his hand slowly, palm back, and we began to retreat without turning around. It's hard to do that in uneven terrain. Every step backward feels like you're about to fall. And the entire time, I felt something behind the deer watching from the tree lean, something tall enough that the fog around it looked thinner, like heat shimmer. We made it back 50 feet and the deer finally moved, not running, just stepping aside calmly, like bouncers letting someone into a club. When we turned and looked again, the deer were gone. Wade exhaled hard. "Okay," he said. "Change plan. We're going to the ridge line. High ground. We do not chase sounds." We climbed, using switchbacks and rock outcrops, and the fog thinned as we rose. Up there, wind moved through the trees and for a while it felt like regular wilderness again. That's when we found Tyler's backpack. It was sitting upright against a stump like someone placed it there carefully. Zippers closed. Clean. Not what you'd expect from a lost hiker who's panicking and injured. Wade crouched and inspected it without touching. "Too neat," he said. "Mateo, eyes up." I scanned around and saw footprints in the dirt, barefoot prints, human, leading away from the pack toward a cluster of boulders. That made no sense. Tyler had boots. We followed the prints cautiously until we reached a narrow gap between 2 rocks. The gap was darker than it should have been, like a shadow had substance. From inside came a faint dripping sound and a low hum, almost like a distant choir warming up. Wade's jaw clenched. "Cave," he said. "Or something pretending." I thought of Rule 6, copper smell. It wasn't here now, but the air felt heavy, charged. "Tyler?" Mateo whispered before he could stop himself, and Wade shot him a look so sharp it could cut rope. But it was too late. From the gap came a soft reply. Not Tyler's voice this time. Mateo's. Perfectly. Yeah, it said from inside the rock. Mateo's face drained. He stared at Wade like a kid who just realized the stove was hot after touching it. Wade stood, and in a voice that meant business more than comfort, he said, "We don't go in. We mark it. We wait for daylight." Mateo swallowed. "But what if he's in there," Wade said quietly, "and he's alive, daylight gives us a chance. If that's not him, daylight gives us a chance to still be alive." We backed away and marked the location for the incident command post. That's when our radios crackled again, but this time it wasn't my voice repeating. It was dispatch, except dispatch sounded like it was smiling. "Units on Ridge Line," it said, "be advised, missing subject located. Return to vehicles." Wade frowned. "Dispatch doesn't talk like that," he muttered. I checked the channel. It was our channel. The voice came again, cheerful. "Missing subject located. Return to vehicles. Return to vehicles." Wade did something I'll never forget. He turned his radio off and threw it into his pack like it was biting him. "Rule 2 doesn't cover this," he said. "So we make a new rule. We don't take instructions from anything that sounds happy out here." We started moving toward the vehicles, but the woods didn't feel the same anymore. The fog thickened again, and it felt like the trees had shifted, subtle, not like a movie where branches grab you, but like you were walking through a place that was rearranging itself behind your back. Then we heard footsteps to our left, matching our pace. Not heavy. Not light. Just, there. Mateo's breathing quickened. "Is that Team 2? He whispered. Wade didn't answer. Instead he lifted his head slightly like he was listening to something above us. That's when he said it, the phrase from Rule 8, the one I hadn't taken seriously until that moment. "It knows you." The words landed like a rock in my stomach. Wade didn't wait. "Go," he barked. "Now. Fast. Stay together." We moved, not running full sprint, but close, pushing through brush, sliding down wet rock. I kept my eyes forward and my mouth shut. Behind us, the footsteps stayed perfectly in time. Then, suddenly, the woods went quiet. No wind. No creek. No insects. Silence so complete it rang. And in that ringing silence, I heard my girlfriend's voice, clear and warm, calling from ahead, "Evan? Babe, I'm here." My heart lurched because that voice belonged nowhere near these mountains. Wade saw my expression and grabbed my collar. "Don't," he hissed. "It uses what works." The voice came again, closer, pleading. "Please, I'm scared." I wanted to cry. I wanted to answer. I wanted to run toward it. That's how you know it's a trap, because it makes you feel like a monster for not stepping into it. We pushed on until the trees broke and the service road appeared, and there, through the fog, were the faint outlines of our vehicles. Relief hit me so hard my knees went weak. But then I saw something that made me stop. There were lights near our vehicles. Headlamps. People. A group standing around the trucks as if they'd been waiting. "That's them," Mateo said. "That's our guys." Wade squinted and shook his head slowly. "Count," he whispered. I counted. 7 figures. But our entire operation out here, including Team 2, was 6. Wade raised his hand, stopping us in the tree lean. "Rule 3, he murmured. "If you see a light that isn't ours, don't approach." "But those are people," Mateo insisted. Wade didn't blink. "So is a mannequin if you don't look too close." One of the figures turned toward us. Even through fog, I could tell it moved wrong, too smooth, like a video playing at a slightly off frame rate. Then it lifted a hand and waved. And my radio, still on my belt, crackled with my own voice again, speaking words I hadn't said. "We're here. Come on out." I felt like vomiting. Wade leaned close. "We go wide," he whispered. "We circle to the road and come in from behind. We do not walk into a welcome party in the dark." We moved along the edge of the clearing, staying in shadow, and as we did, the figures by the trucks didn't follow with their heads the way normal people would. They all turned at once, like synchronized swimmers. The one in the middle stepped forward and called out with Wade's voice, "Evan, Mateo, stop messing around. Get over here." Wade's jaw tightened so hard I thought his teeth would crack. We kept moving. The figure's voice changed to mine, "Guys, I'm hurt. Help me." Then it changed to Tyler's, young, shaky. "Please. I'm right here." My body wanted to obey like a dog hearing its owner. But we forced ourselves to keep circling until we reached the vehicles from the rear, where the real headlights were off and the real gear bags were stacked. And there, crouched by the back tire of Wade's truck, was Team 2's leader, Hannah, eyes wide. She held a finger to her lips. She whispered, barely audible, "Don't let it see you." My throat tightened. We know," she whispered back. "We lost contact with you. Then we saw them. They're trying to hurt us." Wade nodded once, grim. "Where's Tyler?" Hannah's gaze flicked toward the woods. "We found him," she said. "Alive. But, not walking." Wade looked at her hard. "Show me." Hannah led us to the far side of the trucks where the fog was thinner. On the ground, wrapped in a thermal blanket, was a young man with dirt on his face and terror in his eyes. Tyler. Real Tyler. He clutched his knees to his chest like he was trying to make himself smaller. When I knelt beside him, he flinched like I was going to hit him. "Tyler," Hannah whispered gently, careful not to raise her voice. "We're getting you out." Tyler's lips trembled. Don't say my name," he rasped. Wade's eyes snapped up to Hannah. "He knows," Wade said. Tyler swallowed hard. "I heard it," he whispered. It kept saying it. My name. Over and over. Like it was practicing. His eyes flicked to the fog beyond the trucks. It told me the rules. It told me if I broke them, it would let me go. And then it laughed. A chill crawled down my spine. Wade looked toward the tree line and said quietly, "Load him. Now." No sirens. No shouting. We leave like thieves. We moved fast, lifting Tyler carefully, sliding him into the back seat of the lead vehicle. The whole time, I felt eyes on us from the fog, patient and amused. Then, as we started engines, the figures in the clearing began to walk toward us, not rushing, not angry, just closing the distance like a slow tide. Hannah locked eyes with me and whispered, "Don't look at their faces." I didn't want to, but as the headlights swept across them, I saw enough to regret having eyes. Their faces weren't blank. They were almost right. Like someone made people from memory but forgot the small details that make a human a human. One figure had a smile that was too wide but not cartoon wide, just wide enough to feel wrong. Another's eyes reflected light like an animal's. Another wore a uniform similar to ours, except the patches were nonsense symbols stitched in crooked. Wade threw the truck into gear. We rolled forward slowly, not wanting to slam the gas and skid, not wanting to do anything reckless that would invite panic. The figures stepped aside as we passed, like they wanted us to go, like the game wasn't over, just paused. As the convoy descended the mountain road, my radio crackled one last time. In my own voice, soft and almost tender, it said, "You did so good, Evan. Next time, you won't." I ripped the radio off my belt and threw it onto the floorboard like it was a snake. Nobody spoke until we hit the paved highway and saw the first gas station glow in the distance. Only then did the air in my lungs feel like it belonged to the normal world again. At the hospital, Tyler refused to let anyone say his name for the rest of the night. He kept repeating the same sentence like a prayer: don't answer the voices. Don't follow the lights. Don't take the shortcut road. Wade filed the report the way you always do: clinical language, weather conditions, subject located, extraction successful. No mention of rules. No mention of almost people. Because if you put that on paper, it becomes official, and if it becomes official, more people will go looking. And the mountains don't need more curiosity. Before dawn, Wade and I sat in the station parking lot, both of us staring at nothing. I finally asked him, voice low, what is it? Wade didn't answer right away. Then he said, it's the reason old folks leave offerings at trailheads. It's the reason you hear whistles in the dark and you don't whistle back. Call it a crawler, call it a mimic, call it whatever makes you feel safe. The truth is simple: the mountains have things in them that learned how to wear our voices. He turned to me then, and for the first time, his tough guy mask slipped. You did good, he said. You didn't answer. You didn't get curious. That's why you're here. I nodded, but my hands were still shaking. So what now? I asked. Wade stared up at the ridgeline where the sun was starting to paint the fog gold. Now we pretend it was normal, he said. And next time dispatch calls, we follow the rules. I went home that morning and slept with my phone face down, volume off, like silence could protect me. But even now, weeks later, when I'm alone and the house is quiet, I sometimes hear a faint whistle outside, 2 short blasts, and I don't move, I don't answer, and I don't even breathe too loud until it stops. Because whether you believe in the rules or not, the Appalachians do. And if you're still listening right now, do me a favor, hit subscribe to the Midnight Voice, because I tell these stories for one reason, so you don't learn the rules the hard way, alone in the fog, when something out there decides it wants to practice saying your name.